Great. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I think I have 2 past the hour on my clock. We want to welcome you to the Urban, Indoor, and Emerging Agriculture RFA Information webinar. My name is Olivia Moreno. I'm a program specialist within NIFA's Institute of Food Production and Sustainability. Later on, we will be hearing from Dr. Ganesh Bora, our MPL for this program, and also Dr. Matt Nguajo, the other MPL for this program. Before we get started, I would like to put our non-discrimination statement up, and please bear with me. In accordance with federal civil rights law and U.S. Department of Agriculture civil rights regulations and policies, USDA, its agencies, offices, employees, and institutions participating in or administering USDA programs are prohibited from discriminating based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, age, marital status, family or parental status, income derived from a public assistance program, political beliefs, or reprisal or retaliation for prior civil rights activity in any of our programs or activities conducted or funded by USDA. I would also like to provide some information. This slide also contains contact information for individuals with disabilities to be able to request reasonable accommodations, such as language access service upon request. Also, if anyone is wishing to file a complaint, please do so using form AD 3027 via the listed phone number, fax number, or our postal mailing address. And USDA is an equal opportunity provider, employer, and lender. Just to give a brief overview of NIFA, we are an extramural science funding agency within USDA's research, education, and economics mission area. Also, NIFA invests in and supports initiatives that ensure the long-term viability of agriculture. NIFA also provides funding and strategic leadership for programs that ensure groundbreaking discoveries in agriculture-related sciences and technologies to reach those people who can put them into practice. Next, we will hear from Dr. Matt Nguajo.
Okay, thank you, Olivia. Thank you for that introduction. And good afternoon to all. My name is Matt Nguajo. I'm a National Science Liaison with NIFA. Before getting into the details of this program, I would like to tell a few things, a few reminders that everything, over 90% of what we are presenting today, it's straight from the RFA. RFA is the request for applications. So if you don't get something here, you can always get it from the RFA. Most of the slide that we will be showing you today, if you look at the upper right side of the slide, you may actually see the reference to the RFA page number where you can find the exact information and the details. Also, you will receive a copy of this slide deck and later a recording of this presentation. So no need to be taking notes today because you will get all that. So with that reminder, let us get started with the details of the program. The name of this program, Urban, Indoor, and Emerging Agriculture, is straight from the language from the Farm Bill, because this program was authorized in the 2018 Farm Bill. It is one of the NIFA competitive grant programs that we are implementing for the first time this year, 2022, to support research, education, and extension activities in the urban, indoor, and emerging agriculture production systems. The program will focus on multiple segments of the production value chain, including production, harvesting, transportation, aggregation, packaging, distribution, and marketing. And for those who do not have access to the RFA, again, request for application, we have a link here for you. Next slide. Again, at next slide, Olivia. Great, thank you. I told you that the program was authorized in the 2018 Farm Bill. And we are also lucky that the Farm Bill set the framework for this program by giving us 8 topic areas within which we need to operate. You have those 8 topic areas on the screen. You will have the slide set. However, I would like to go quickly through each of them with you right now. The first one is really about remediation of contaminated sites. That's the first topic area for this program. If you're looking at the second topic area, it will focus more on developing best management practices for production and integrated pest management practices. The third is about horticultural, social, and economic factors that contribute to successful urban, indoor, and emerging production. The fourth area is about new agricultural sites. How do you determine those new sites? And this includes things like soil quality and conditions of a building or local community needs. The fifth topic here is about new technologies that will help reduce energy input and other input like light, water in production within those systems. And the sixth is about building materials and efficiencies and structural upgrades of those building materials. Focus area 7 is about new crop varieties and new agricultural products. And the final topic here is about looking at environmental quality and food safety for production in urban, indoor, and emerging system. So those are the 8 topic areas where the Farm Bill kind of set the framework for this program to operate over time. And you can see there, the same thing is in your RFA on page 6. Next. Now, when we publish this RFA, we have received a lot of requests from potential applicants interested in knowing what systems will be relevant for this program. And one of the things that you need to keep in mind is we are trying to avoid duplicating any other existing NIFA program. So this is a new program. We are trying to reduce duplication. And if you look at the language from the 2018 Farm Bill, this is verbatim from the Farm Bill. And these are some of the systems that are relevant to this RFA. It's about community gardens and farms located in urban areas, suburbs, and urban clusters. 2, rooftop farms, outdoor vertical production and green walls. 3, indoor farms, greenhouses, and high-tech vertical technology farms. 4, hydroponics, aeroponic, and aquaponic farm facilities. And we have a last topic there, which says other innovations in agricultural production as determined by the Secretary of Agriculture. So if you're looking at the production systems, you have to be operating in the urban setting or indoor. And when you are in one of those 2 conditions, you can work on pretty much any system. However, if you are not in urban setting, you are not working indoor, I think the most relevant system will be the hydroponic, aeroponic, and aquaponic systems there. So please take a look at this. You will get again a slide set so that you can look at this a little later. Next slide. Okay, so you saw the 8 topics that were outlined in the Farm Bill. That was a lot of topics to cover. However, because we received limited funding from the program this year, we are only going to focus on the most urgent priorities. Now you will ask us, how do you determine those priorities? How did you narrow down that long list of 8 priorities just to a couple? We use 3 strategies. We use input from the Federal Register notice. We use stakeholder listening sessions, and we consulted with the Federal Advisory Committee on Urban Agriculture. So 3 data points for us there to help us narrow down that list. Next. So at the end of that exercise, we came down to these 3 priorities that are going to be the focus of the program this year. Not the list of 8. These are the 3 that we will be focusing on this year. It is going to be about identifying and promoting the horticultural, social, and economic factors that contribute to successful production. The second topic is going to be, analyzing new agricultural sites and including things like soil quality, the conditions of the building, and local community needs. And the last priority for this year will focus on new crop varieties and new agricultural products that can help connect to new markets. So those are the 3. You are not required to address all 3. One of or more of those priorities will be good enough. And again, this is on page 6 of the RFA. Next. And here's a couple of other conditions that you have to meet in your proposal. You see that on page 7 of the RFA. Every application that we receive must meet all these conditions. You should explain the magnitude of the most urgent and critical needs or problem that you are trying to solve and how you will address that problem. That is clearly, you have to convey that to the panel. You should also look at opportunities to strengthen things like income and employment, to enhance the quality of life and food access to urban and Native American communities. You should provide an estimated or actual economic return for the technology that you are proposing. You should show us how private industry investment will be part of the project, and also, as relevant, how site selection and reduced barriers to land access will be addressed by your project. Next. Again, other conditions that you must meet in your application. Also on page 7 of the RFA, you need to describe an approach for blending research and extension. So we just don't want a component of research and a component of extension. We want you to show us how you blend the 2. You have to provide an evidence that the project is aligned with stakeholder provided priority, the 3 that we listed. You have to present expected solutions and how these will be assessed. How will you measure those results? And you have to address the potential cost of the proposed solution and describe how it can be scaled. Finally, you have to explain how the project will impact urban, indoor, and emerging agriculture, and how those results will be adopted or applied to a local, regional, or national level. So those are some of the things that will help you put together a compelling application for this program. Next. Now, how about eligibility, Ganesh?
Thank you, Matt, and thank you for that excellent explanation about the program area, how this program came on. And I'm Ganesh Bora, National Program Leader in Ag Systems and leading this program. And the most question I have received is, are we eligible or am I eligible to apply for this program? And I'm not a land grant university, and I had got thousands of emails who are eligible to apply, and is it for profit, non-profit? Just to say, anyone, any US citizen or any US organization, they're allowed to apply, provided they have a SAM registration. But as Matt mentioned before, the project proposal is integrated. That means you have to have two of the three components: research, extension, and education. So with that in mind, we always expect, because of these agriculture related areas, so state agricultural experimentation of land grant universities, any educational institutions, colleges and universities with research foundations of the university, any federal or national laboratories or any research institutions, organizations, private organization, LLCs, any individual or any combination of those are allowed to apply. Again, you need to have a SAM registration and other logistics you need for the submission of the proposal. Next. As I mentioned, like the main project type is integrated. So you need to have research and extension, and the grant would be standard. That's the most of the grants are integrated, and it can be collaborative. And if it is conference grant, then it may not be integrated. It's how you are planning to organize any workshop, conferences like that. I'll explain it in the next slide. Next. As we talked about integrated project, that's the key point, and we need to have at least two of the three components. And in doing so, we must have research. That's the foundational research, and it is required part of the proposals. So any component has to be minimum of 33%. Not only in budget, it also should be evident when the review is done for the panelist. And also you cannot have maximum of 67%. So you are having research and education or research and extension, you can have 50-50 or 67-33. So any has to be minimum 33, or if you have all three together, you need to have 33 each. So that way, like you cannot just say at the end of the proposal that we'll also do some training, but it has to be all methodologically cleared in the proposal. Next. So we are mostly looking into standard grants for original scientific projects, and also looking into collaborative grants, which allows partners, resources, and funding agencies resources, sometime like you are doing joint or collaborative project with other funded projects or with public-private partnership, anything you can. But conference grants are maximum you can get 50,000, and it's about a year. And it basically how you can promote urban, indoor, and emerging agriculture. That should be the key for the conference grants. Next. So there is another questions I have, do we need any matching fund we don't require any matching fund, or you do not get any extra benefits of if you have matching fund. So if you have collaborative and matching fund, it's fine as long as the review would be based on the science, subject matter, and other aspects of the facilities and the personnels, not on matching fund. Next. So we have two deadlines, and one is for the LOI, letter of intent, which is required, but it's not reviewed. We will not review the letter of intent. The purpose of the letter of intent is that how many proposals are coming in and what is the subject matter area. That's that's how we'll build a panel, review panel, so that we know number of proposals coming in, that would be maximum proposals. And if you submitted an LOI by 5 p.m. of 11 July 2022, you are allowed to submit the full proposal. And total funding is close to $10 million, that $9,400,000. And as the cap for each grant is 1 million, so we were expecting on the minimum of 10 proposals, and it can be a little bit more depending on how many proposals are in excellent or outstanding. And it's kind of, if you are putting up standard or collaborative, it should be 3 to 4 years, and the conference grants are 12 months. Next. So there's another question. So you have to whom to send the LOI. And this is one of the things, like it's not very clear in the RFA. RFA has sent, like you should send to the program contact if in that case. And we have a inbox for this particular program. So the email is NIFA.UIE at USDA.gov. And please send a copy to Olivia and me, so that at least there are 3 emails going in. You might miss one, but not all the 3. So we will make sure that at least one of us got that. And all the program contacts have access to the UIE inbox. So if you are sending there, we'll all get it. And one thing you must remember, that the subject matter should have letter of intent, UIE, and write the project director's last name so that we can track the LOI with the main proposal. If you submit a main proposal without the LOI, that would be rejected. And one proposal or one LOI per PD with you can be co-PD or in the different projects, but cannot be having the same topic or same subject matter, submitting like 2 PDs are submitting the same thing. So duplication is very discouraged. And it will be looking into the LOI again so that we can have a proper review panel so that all the subject matter is covered. Next. Olivia.
Great, thank you, Ganesh. I will get into a little bit more of the details for the LOI formatting. We would like to have a font size of at least 12 points with 1-inch margins in all directions. Line spacing, we ask that it not exceed 6 lines of text per vertical inch. We also would like the page size to be the standard letter of 8.5 by 11 inches. And this LOI is limited to specifically 2 pages. On the first page, we would like to see the name, professional title, and or affiliation of the PDs and any collaborating investigators. We would also like to see the food value chain stage from production to the markets, for example, and the program priority that is most closely addressed in the application. If this is an LOI for a conference grant, please include those conference dates in the LOI. And on page 2, we would like to have the title of your project, the rationale, an overall hypothesis or goal. Also, please list the specific objectives and the approaches to these. And finally, we would like for you to include the potential impact and expected outcomes of your project. Data management plan. A data management plan is required for this program. Applicants should clearly articulate this in the LOI and how the project director and the co-PDs plan to manage and disseminate the data generated by the project. The data management plan will also be considered during the merit review process. So please include it in your application. And there is a guide that we have for specifically listed for data management plans in the following link. And lastly, I would like to cover NIFA only accepts the electronic submission of applications. We also have a guide for this found at the following link. Also, please remind yourselves and any collaborators that are applying to your program, to this program, sorry, that the application documents must be in PDF only. NIFA only accepts PDF formats of your narrative and budget justifications. Grants.gov may allow other formats such as Word, but NIFA does not. So please keep this in mind when you are submitting your application. We suggest you use commonly used software such as Adobe Acrobat. And please refrain from using any password protected PDFs as this generates issues for when we want to have access to your application. I think, Matthew, how about that evaluation process?
Yes, Olivia, I can cover this a little bit, and this is mainly for those people who are not familiar with our peer review system. So they always have asked the question, what would happen to our proposal when we submit it? So all full proposals submitted to this program will be assigned to independent external reviewers, and we will have a minimum of 3 reviewers assigned for each proposal. Those reviewers will be selected based on their expertise on the specific topic of your proposal. Those reviewers will submit individual and independent reviews focusing on the strengths and weaknesses of your proposal. Upon receipt of all those individual reviews, we will convene a peer review panel to discuss all proposals. We will begin that discussion by presenting the reviews from individual reviewers, and we will use that as a way to rate and rank your proposal based on the consensus of the panel. And that ranking of the proposal will be the basis for our final recommendation for funding. Next, Olivia. And all this is on page 15 of the RFA. Also, to make sure that we have a level playing field, we also shared with you the evaluation criteria in the RFA, page 15 and 16, so that everyone submitting an application knows how they will be evaluated. Some of the criteria include the rationale and significance of the project, the objectives and approach, the project assessment, the institutional capacity, division of labor and management plan, and your budget justification. So those are all the detail of each criteria are in the RFA. Next. Also, just to provide you with a quick timeline of what happened for those competing for the program. The RFA was published about 1 month ago. The deadline for LOIs, letter of intent, is next week, July 11. And the full application deadline is September 22 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Application received at 5:01 will be rejected because they will be late. Upon receipt of all those applications, we will send them out for review to our peer review system, and we will make a funding notification about 2 months later. And then the full processing of the award may not be done until another 2 months. So we're just asking those who will be submitting to be a little patient with us, and we will keep you updated as we go through that process. Next. And here is just a quick slide of easy, just one link. If you are interested in knowing what other upcoming RFA is in the pipeline at NIFA, you can click that link to see what is coming up. Next slide, Olivia. And also here, this is just a compilation of some of the key resources that may be useful to you. You know, like the funding opportunities, competitive grant flowchart, NIFA grant resources, our NIFA policy guide, indirect costs. So those are just some links that we think may help you be more competitive as you put together your application. Next. So with this, I'm going to probably stop there, but you have our contact information there if you need to drop us an email, or you can also have our phone number in the RFA. This is our team. But today, the goal of this webinar was really to listen to you, not to present, because everything that we have just said is in the RFA. I would say 90% more is in the RFA. And what we presented, we actually copy and paste it from the RFA. So we are here to listen to you if you have questions for us. And what will be the best
Olivia,
way to—
we have Q&A, 10 questions I have seen. So maybe we'll take it one by one, then we'll go to the chat.
Or maybe, Ganesh, there are a couple of those that are focusing on the data management plan. I saw a couple of comments on that. Maybe we can knock those out immediately.
Okay.
I mean, because a lot of people are asking, is the data management plan going to count toward the page limit of the narrative? And our answer is no.
That's in the main proposal. And we have one question like, do we need in LOI? And we don't need that.
Okay. And the other question here, can the slide for the presentation be made available? I'm sure Olivia will make, if you register for this webinar, you will receive a copy of the presentation.
Yes, that is correct, Matt.
And I'll also receive some questions here about, are we only going to focus on those 3 priorities that we identify for this year? And the answer is yes. We are only going to focus on those 3 out of the 8 that you had in the Farm Bill this year. Because of the limited funding and with the input that we received from our stakeholders, we are only going to focus on those 3. And I see here Carl Sams asking for what are the budget items that are acceptable. I will say this is not a equipment grant. It's just like a typical regular NIFA grant. If you have competed for SCRI, OREA, AFRI, this is the typical NIFA grant. So it is not made for construction. If you want to put in place a building, if you want to buy a piece of land to start your production, this is not going to be, those would not be allowable expenses. However, small equipment that you need to get the research done or the extension done will be allowable, just like with any other typical NIFA grant. And there's also, I'm first going in the chat, and then after that, Olivia, we can look at the Q&A. I see here someone asking, Megan, asking, is there a budget format? So all of our grant, if you download the package for grants.gov, it will come, that package will come with your budget forms that you will use. So it's part of the application package. And again, I just jump on any other topic that you see that I'm missing.
Yeah, it's one of the question Kerry Tucker said, like it's maximum 67% and minimum 33% share of the project budget and activities, inclusive of voluntary applicant match or specifically grant amount being requested. And we do not expect any match for that. And even if you have match, but we are looking into project activities. It should be maximum of 67% of one component and minimum of 33% of other component. That's the activity as well as budget you are requesting from NIFA. So total project budget, and we are not considering any match to be advantageous for this one.
Okay. And I have another one here. Are we going to hear from you, your office, after submitting an LOI? No, Ganesh already explained that. The only reason why we are requesting the letters of intent this year is because this is the first year we are offering this. And we have to use your letter of intent to line up the expertise that we needed on our panel to be able to review the full application. That is the only reason why we are doing that. And another question, comment here from Jude is explain the top 3 in more detail. And those top 3, I don't know if Olivia can go back to those top 3. I don't know which slide that was.
Yes, I'm going back.
Yeah, can back again. Yes, those are the 3. And even if when you look at the list of the 8 on page 6 of the RFA, it's the same topic. Again, the first one is trying to identify and to promote horticultural, social, and economic factors that contribute to successful urban, indoor, and emerging agriculture. The second one is analyzing the means by which new agricultural sites are determined, including an evaluation of soil quality, conditions of a building, or local community needs. And the third one is developing new crop variety and agricultural products to connect to new markets. You will get a copy of the slide set. You have the exact same information in the RFA on page 6.
There is a question that do we need to specify budget in the LOI? And no, we don't need that. And then can education instead of research and extension be collaborative for grant? No, research is required. So you can have, with research, you can have extension and or education. So you can have like education, extension together, or just extension, just education, because there's a fine line dividing between the two while we are doing workforce development, training, and all other things. So you can substitute education for extension, extension for education, or you can have both, but research is required.
Okay. Yeah, Ganesh and Olivia, we have also a question here that maybe we should be a little bit more structured here, because we have the Q&A and then we have the chat.
Yeah.
So
let's go to Q&A now.
exactly, let's go to Q&A.
Okay. Are we ready? So I'll start from the top and then, okay. So hello, aspiring urban farmer here. I would like to start an indoor tilapia farm. I continue to hit a brick wall with zoning restrictions that don't allow urban farming in any of the cities near me, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Are there any resources to help people with zoning changes for urban farming?
Okay, maybe I should take that one. This specific program, we do not think that a project focusing only on zoning will panel very well for this program. However, zoning could be addressing critical issues or major barriers caused by zoning could be part of a larger proposal. So that could be a component of a proposal, but a proposal focusing only on zoning, while it will address urban agriculture, I believe may not compete very well here.
Yeah, let me take there is one question. So I just typed the answer because it was easy. There was a question asking like, what is the funding rate for this program? As you may know, this is the first year and we don't know how many proposals should be coming in and what are the amounts they're asking for in each proposal. So funding rate is unknown. It all depends on how many proposals and what they're asking for. So we are funding at least 10 projects. That's what we are planning right now. And it may be more depending on how much you are asking. So the quality of the project, that is science and others in that project, is more important than the amount you are asking. So it's how this review panel will give us the rankings. And the next question is, how would you like to see the industry? Are they need to be part of the proposal team? Again, it depends on the project itself, how the proposal is coming in. We definitely encourage collaborative, but it's not required. And if you have public partnership, that's great. And again, going back to what I said before, that it depends on the quality of the science and the methodology you are proposing for your, like the reviewer would be looking into that. All this, how those proposals will be evaluated. But participation of the industry is always welcome.
Okay, I see one here. How do the application requirement require change if it's a conference proposal? Well, those requirements are really dependent on the actual, they have to make sense for the project. If you are doing a conference proposal, you are not going to even satisfy the requirement of research, extension, or those. So we do not expect you to meet everything with a conference proposal. Whatever is relevant to that conference will make sense at that time. And the next question there is, only 6 out of, I think, 8 focus area this year priority. With a proposal focusing on one of the other 6 topic areas be considered this year? The answer is no, because we have narrowed down based on the amount of funding that we have. Even though the project will still be part of the overall scope of the urban, indoor, and emerging agriculture, it will not be a fit for the 2022 program. So those would not be reviewed.
Okay, Matt, the next one, I'll read that one off.
Yes, please.
The new crop varieties and agricultural products need to be consumer facing, or can they be intermediate crops or ag products, such as developing new livestock, feeding cropping systems in indoor setting?
I will say it is the latter. Whether they are consumer facing or not, as long as they are agricultural products, we are fine with that. So it could be food, feed, anything, as long as it is focusing on agriculture.
Okay, next one up is, can you discuss eligible and ineligible costs?
Well, like we said before, this is going to be very standard, the same as many of the programs that we found. Any material that is directly related to the activities of the research, like personnel, travel, anything that you need to get the job done, other than, I said, purchasing the building, purchasing the land, building new stuff, will not be acceptable. But anything else that is required to get the job done with good justification will be acceptable.
Okay, great, thank you. Next one up we have from Megan. Can you please provide more detail or a link to more detail on the funding restrictions listed on page 13 of the RFA?
I'm not sure I'm getting that information, because again, you will be getting that link and you could click on that link to see more details.
There is a link to in the presentation to go to how to apply for NIFA grants, and there's some explanation of the budgets are there, but the restrictions are, as Matt said before, you cannot buy land, you cannot build a house, you cannot build, but you can buy equipment for this project, or if you need any materials for this project, or if you have to employ a research assistant or somebody for this project, everything has to be for this project. You cannot use something permanent structure, or you cannot buy a car for this project, but you can buy an equipment for this project.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ganesh and Matt. Next one up we have from Shamim. How would you link the community garden from economic and income aspects if you consider the urban community garden as part of this call? Community garden as mainly not from economic or industry perspective.
And again, when you look at the language from the Farm Bill, community gardens are clearly a part of this call. However, if you see an aspect that is not relevant to the specific project, I would recommend that you put that in your proposal. Educate the reviewer, don't let them guess why you did not put an economic component. If you think that is not relevant to the objective of your research, say it in your proposal. Don't just ignore it.
Great, thank you, Matt. Next one up we have from Eduardo. Hi, can you expand a little on the rationale part of the LOI?
Eduardo, this is exactly what the important, why do you want to have this project done? So that would be rational. Like you just have a problem, you explain the problem, that's the problem statement, why do you want to solve it? And that would be part of your, so that builds up the subject matter. So that's sort of the rationale of this project. So this should be telling us that what are the expertise we need for the review panel.
Yes, Ganesh, you hit it on the nail. So we are asking you to tell us what you are going to submit so that we can begin looking for expert in that specific field to review the full application when it comes in. So that's the main reason for the LOIs.
Great, thank you, Ganesh and Matt. Next one, we have from anonymous attendee. This is our first NIFA grant, so we are not familiar with what is typical.
That's an excellent question. The NIFA is an agency which provides extramural grant to make US agriculture globally competitive. So that's the broad line. And so whenever you are applying for NIFA grants, you must be looking into what the program area expects, the program expects. So in this one, we are looking into an integrated project in urban and indoor settings. So for this one, if you are applying for, so there are different programs in NIFA which have different program interest, program areas, and program priorities. For this project or this program, we are looking into urban and indoor settings. And what is typical is that we want to make agriculture competitive, and your results, your output can be available to other farmers or other beneficiaries who can who can use it for their benefits also, because it's a federal funding.
Yeah, and again, it's also a typical thing about NIFA is we want to make sure that we have a level playing field for all our applicants. And therefore, everything is put in the call request for applications. So all applicants will be seeing the exact request for application. We do not provide any training to any group, specific group, because we will have to do that to all our potential applicants. And they also, all our proposals are reviewed competitively. This is not just an assistance program. And the projects that are funded are based on technical and scientific merit as determined by a panel of scientists that will be reviewing these proposals.
Great, thank you, Matt and Ganesh. Next question we have is from Norma. When does the period of performance begin? Thank you.
Okay, for a project that will be successful, we recommend that you put a start date in your proposal of, I would say, January 1, 2023, or after that. If your project is successful, that date could be negotiated with you again.
Great, thank you, Matt. Next we have from Lawrence. I'm guessing they refer to the allowable costs. So not buying land, how about a greenhouse or an aquaponics system?
And it all depends on the cost. If you're buying an aquaponic system for $5,000 to compare different systems, I will see that pretty easy. But if $500,000 is going to be spent on acquiring a new greenhouse, we can easily see there that it's basically the grant will be for acquiring a greenhouse, not for research. So it will be a tough case to make for someone to buy a greenhouse with this type of funding. We do have other funding available to us, to NIFA, and those are equipment fund program that will allow people to buy a large piece of equipment for their research or extension, but not this program.
Thank you, Matt. Next question we have is just to check, equipment and capital costs are not allowable, correct? So any research that happens has to occur within the context of an existing indoor ag system project.
Yeah, I would say again that any major equipment will be outside the scope of the program. There will always be the case based on the specific objective of your research, where you can make a case that without this specific piece of equipment, there's no way we can solve this problem. And if that piece of equipment has to be the greenhouse itself or the building itself, it would be really tough to make that case.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much. Next question we have is from Surendra. Could you please elaborate a little bit about the 3 priority areas for this year?
I thought we did that already.
Okay, so we can, okay, mark it as answered already. Okay, next one up is from Jacqueline. What date should we use for a project start date? My apologies if I'm missing this Rfa.
I think that also.
We did,
Matt
yeah,
has explained,
we
like,
covered it.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one is from Joni. How do I get an extension office involved in our project? What exactly do you mean by underserved communities? Do I ask for a dollar amount in our LOI?
And I don't think the project itself is focusing on underserved communities. And if there was some language there, and you yourself as an applicant, you can make the case they are not the same in every community. So, and we are not requesting to put a dollar amount that you will be requesting on in your LOI. It's not a requirement, although it may still be good to know.
About like, how do I get an extension office involved in our project? That would be your call. Like, how do you contact the local extension office, or how do you do extension, meaning by putting training for farmers or workforce development? That you have to coordinate it. It doesn't have to be always with the extension office, but the proposers has to have their own coordination. How do you do that? And NIFA cannot get involved in your logistic or nitty-gritty, so that we do not look like bias or conflict of interest from NIFA side.
Great, thank you. Thank you both. Next question is from Darla. Is there a sheet that lists what the budget will cover?
No, we do not have something like that, because again, every project is unique, and we cannot have a sheet that is one size fits all. What is relevant to achieve the goal of that specific objective are okay. It could be personal salary, could be travel, could be little equipment, but we do not have a sheet of paper that lists everything that you will need to add to their project.
Okay. Thank you, Max. Next question is, what is the possibility of the LOI deadline being extended, even if by only a short extension, given that this webinar is taking place less than a week before the LOI deadline? And there have been—
No, we are not extending the deadline. It has to be 5 p.m. Central in 11th July.
Thank you, Ganesh. Next question, can we base the research on fixing food deserts in urban inner city, in our urban inner city?
Yes. Easy. Let's move to
Thank you,
next
Matt.
one.
Through an indoor hydroponic farming aggregate.
That also seems yes, because
Yes.
indoor hydroponic farming.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ganesh. Next question is, would materials include a greenhouse and an aquaponic system?
I think Matt has addressed that
Yes.
same questions before.
Yes. Okay, next is, if the project primarily focuses on one of the three priorities, can it include aspects of another focus area that is not a priority?
Absolutely, yes. You can always include other aspects, but for us, we will be focusing on those three priorities. And those other aspects will also be funded by other sources.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Next question is, does the conference grant need to be integrated? If not, then how would you evaluate the conference grant with a standard grant?
The conference grant would be normally just the conference or workshop you are planning, and it's very difficult to be integrated. But again, if you are presenting some previous work done and discussing in the panel about how to make urban and indoor agriculture, or how do you promote that. So it doesn't have to be integrated as just a normal answer.
Great, thank you, Ganesh. Next question is it likely that additional grant funds may become available next year, FY23, under this program for expansion projects or new UIE eligible projects?
At this point, we do not know. But when you look at the language in the Farm Bill, there could be a possibility, but really there's nothing that we can promise right now, just because we don't know.
Great, thank you, Matt. Next question, can you define major equipment? Is there a cutoff for cost? It will be really hard to do this project without equipment.
Well, it's also difficult here without checking our equipment grant and talking to our post-award management people. It used to be a cutoff of $5,000, but again, with a clean justification in the proposal, you can always go a little over that.
See, the measure justification should be that how important this equipment to implement this project, and is it like kind of say 20% would be used for this one and 80% would be used for the, like buying a tractor, you are using this as well as doing something else. So that would be no. But if you're buying a small equipment or which should be measure use would be for this program, then it can be yes, but you have to definitely justify the measure use of that equipment should be for this project.
Great, thank you, Ganesh. The next one is for the priority area, identifying and promoting the horticultural, social, and economic factors that contribute to successful urban indoor and other emerging ag production systems. Does a proposal need to address all three factors, horticultural, social, and economic, or addressing one factor is sufficient?
Addressing one factor is sufficient, although if you could address more than one, that will even be better, but addressing just one is okay.
Great, thank you, Matt. Next question is, could this grant include development of equipment, including engineered and molded towers?
I would see no reason why we will not fund something like that. You know, if you're working on engineering aspect, that would actually be encouraged. Yeah, developing equipment, including engineered and molded tower. Yeah, that would be part of the eligible activities.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And last question. Can the proposal be a comprehensive planning program focused on the design of a future urban vertical farming system focused on energy and overall socioeconomic impact?
No, we do not offer a planning grant for this year. We are only offering integrated project and a conference grant. No seed grant, no planning grant.
Okay. Thank you, Matt.
Let's see anything on the chat.
And I see one there from Rhiannon, whether we can do a project that will be education and extension. The answer is no. The research component is a requirement. So every proposal other than the conference grant should have a research component and then an extension or education or both.
I see a question. Can you give more details of what education and extension parts? What you do research, and if you can train the farmers or or workforce development or that would be more into extension and education, basically outreach of what you are working on research. So that's kind of goes side by side. So I see a question, if indoor farms in urban areas are research and lights and solar panels are donated by other agencies or companies, can monitoring equipment for the environment and the energy uses in the farm be in the budget? It seems yes, because you're using it for this particular project. So definitely you are allowed to use those. Even you are getting some equipments or something from the partner or collaborator. So that should be fine.
And even lights and solar panel, I don't see why you cannot make a case for that also to be a critical component of the research of the material that you will be testing. Yeah.
Is upper limit of funding is 1 million? Yes. So that's 3 to 4 years of integrated standard grant or collaborative grant, yes. For conference, it's 50,000. Valerie asked indirect rates, and that's depend on how it was negotiated with NIFA before, it's Niagara. So
not to exceed 30% of total federal funds. The maximum of indirect cost is 30% of total federal fund.
Developing new crop varieties equals breeding. If it is done in indoor settings or urban setting, that should be okay.
Yes.
Will it be okay for projects to change between LOI and September 22 submission? If so, how much modification and clarification would be allowable? I would say no. You cannot have a major changes because we are banking on what you have submitted in LOI for what proposal we are expecting. So little change with the measure topic remaining same, the measure subject matter remaining same would not have any big deal, but you cannot have a major change in the main submission.
Yeah, and I see a question here, were there any resources in the PowerPoint about what sort of outcome you are looking for? And you will see this on many of the grants that come from NIFA, we tend not to be very prescriptive in the type of the ask. We pretty much want each project director to define their project and to tell us what solution they are going to get, rather than us telling people what solution we need, because you would pretty much need to be an expert in every single field in urban and indoor production to be able to tell all experts what you are looking for as outcome.
So Lois asked, how can we find equipment grants that are available?
Yeah, and one of the resources on the last page of our PowerPoint, you saw there the list of funding opportunities within NIFA. If you click on that link, you will see our equipment grant RFA also. And if you don't, please drop us an email. We will share that link with you.
Yeah, actually, Kenny Jacobs has given the link to the chat also. So
Oh, perfect.
it's already there. So can you submit 2 LOIs, conference grant and integrated project?
Yes.
Technically, yes, 2 LOIs of 2 different things are always okay, not on the same topic and subject. So if you're sending 1 LOI for a integrated project, one for a conference grant, that should be okay. What is allowed indirect cost for this grant?
And I think that depends on your institution. Because it's your institution that determines what you can charge as indirect costs. Could be facility use, it could be anything, any other service that your institution offers and charges you for.
So there is a question, could a conference be part of an integrated proposal, the extension part? Technically, yes, but you have to be very careful, difference between the conference and the part of that project conference. Like if you are putting normal conference and nothing to do with the activities of the project, that would be very difficult to say. So the conference means like training or workshop as a part of that integrated proposal, yes, it is allowed. Meaning by you are doing more onto the outreach of that proposal. So you have to be careful in that it's not independent, it's part of the proposal.
You see, Jamie is asking if there is a cap on research partners, facility and other rate. It's still a 30% of, that's the maximum. They can request less than that, but the maximum is 30% of the total federal request. And it is, I'm actually reading it from page 13 of the RFA. So all those things are right in the RFA.
There is a question like funding 10 proposals, including conference grant also, or just research proposal. So it's coming from Shenhua Jia. And it's like we have close to $10 million, that $9,400,000. And if 1 million coming from 10 proposals and all are excellent, so we'll fund. So that one, if somebody is asking like 500,000, we can fund 20 proposals. So based on that, like what is the quality of those proposals? So that will be major focus. And we have the limited amount of funding, and if depending on how many proposal and what is the budget request of that. And we can also negotiate or talk to the successful PDs, like if they are willing to go for a little bit less so that we can fund more. So that would be after the panel review based on what are the rankings and what are the review coming from the panelists. So minimum 10 proposals, but we might expect something more than that.
Yeah, and if we have, let's say, we fund all our integrated project, we are left with 200,000 and a lot of conference proposal, we can fund a couple of them. Maximum is 50,000. And the LOI is required for conference grant also because we need to get the expert to review them.
So next question was, does conference grants also need LOI? Yes.
And if we go back to the Q&A, it looks like we have two more there, Olivia.
Yes, two more. The next one is, would you need to apply to the IRS for an indirect cost rate before including indirect costs in the budget if it's 10 to 15%?
I'm not sure that I fully understand this. Is IRS the Internal Revenue Service, I assume? This has nothing to do with the Internal Revenue Service. The indirect costs mean that, let's say you are a university or an organization, and the organization is charging you for the office or your office or where you have the greenhouse to do the research. Sometime in a university campus, researchers are charged what they call plot fee, things like that. All that is what enters in what we call indirect costs. Those are the costs that are not directly related to the research, but could be part of your institution facilities available to you. So IRS has nothing to do with this application process.
See, again, this is not a financial assistance or program. This is a research and extension grant program, which you have to have some results out of it. And so IRS does not get involved in this.
Okay, next one, Olivia.
Thank you. And the last one we have here is, does an academic research have to be involved in this? Would you accept research being done outside of these institutions?
Yes, we definitely accept research done outside academic institutions. That's why, like any laboratory or any organizations are allowed. Only bottom line is that we need to have research and extension as a part of those projects.
And that's why we have a very broad eligibility for the program.
Okay.
So we have a question in the chat. Will greenhouse rental fee allowable for this grant for research activities? Yes, those are allowable if you are using, again, in the greenhouse, and that's what indoor farming would be.
Yep.
And I think that's all I see in questions, Matt, Dinesh.
Yeah, I see some comments and about the webinar, and anything we left. Anybody's question has not been asked. So if you can just raise your hand or type it in, that would be great.
Okay, it looks like we have exhausted all the questions, but they have our contact information. Olivia will be sending the PowerPoint deck and a recording of the presentation, and they can always contact us for any follow-up questions.
Correct.
Thank you all for attending, and hopefully we'll receive a LOI by next week from all of you. And let's make this program very successful. As you mentioned, this is the first year we are working on this. If this becomes successful, and hopefully the Congress will give more money to this program. So let's hope for it and make it a successful program. It's all on you.
And good luck with the LOI and the full application.